yesterday you told us you traveled, and I quote, thousands of light years to get here.
Yes.
Tell us the truth or the word or another way.
It is truth. I thought about far future. To travel in time is to travel in space. Often special devotions.
So I take it aliens took over our future, right?
No.
So you're human. Okay, so you evolved from us.
Yes.
So what are you doing here now?
Observing. Since evidence is forward.
How?
Now, here. Three levels forward. Our ancestors.
Okay, so how about we concentrate on your time?
Everybody is confronted once over. Visible once of more time.
Try me.
Watching of the universe. Electrons circulate Earth. Control.
Wait, so you know the meaning of life?
Nature.
What's the difference?
Something else. A spark. Always objective. Out.
So you know how the universe is created?
Yes.
So you think God?
Very fast. One for superstition. The need for evidence.
Okay, illuminate us. What happens when we die?
Death is a human concept. It does not exist. You experience, or have experienced, a full existence of so-called Earth. How consciousness of the same Earth, separated by what you call death.
Okay, so let me get this straight. There's no death, and we all experience each other's lives, right?
Essence. Yes.
Okay, so how was the universe created, and why is it so perfectly made for us?
All infinite of forces. Each with different stakeholders. Voting all to execute worth execute. Exist in a universe that execute so-called worth. Such as saying,
Moving on. Okay, so why do we destroy ourselves with nuclear war? Can you be more specific, please?
politically, religious, dogma. It is directed at all which conflict in our species. Human suffering exists openly across destruction. Does not still very whatever that is for our species.
Okay, one last thing. What about morality? What do you base your morality on?
Compassion and prudence.
I see. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Hey, Speed. Forge look wild there. Are you scared of me? Because you should be. Okay, so you say you're from the future and an evolutionary descendant of humans. And you also say you're a different species. So, which one is it? Are you a descendant of humans or not?
Descendants of Throwbacks.
Then how do you know English? Answer me. If you don't answer, I'll administer another rotoscope homie until your system collapses. Do you understand? Now, how do you speak English? So you just picked up English, just like that. Because you're so smart, right? Right. So, you said you know the origin of the universe, but you did not provide an explanation. So I ask you again, how was the universe created? Answer the question. Really? But you can't create something out of nothing. Sure it is. Only a creator can make something from nothing. Wait, you just contradicted yourself. So? Wait, but you said there's an origin to the universe. There it is. I caught you in a lie. Right, so now you're talking nonsense. Again, how was the universe created so miraculously? So, like just happened, right? So are you telling me we're just random? How so? Such as? So the universe doesn't care if we live or die. I don't believe that for a second. We're more than just random. So, if we're just random, then there's no meaning to the universe. So if there's no meaning in the universe, then what's the point of living? You just contradicted yourself again. No, you can't live a full life. You can't live a life at all. Do you think the meaning is all made up? what is meaning? Okay, moving on. You said we humans would die as a species. So, tell me, when does the nuclear war start?
No. When does the nuclear war start? Okay. By whom? Really, boss? How? So, how do we stop this? Okay. So, if we stop this lunatic from blowing us up, we'll be fine, right? Wait, but you just said that if we stop him, we won't be destroyed. And what would...
Can you describe for us what we're seeing?
All right, we're looking at the interview suite at S4. It's kept dark for the comfort of the aliens. The figure who is just barely visible in the left foreground is the telepath, and behind the camera is a raked seating area for observers. Although in this case, I believe the only other person present was a military aide. The alien is seated behind a glass partition in a biocontainment area, which is maintained at biosafety level 2, the lowest designation. That's primarily for the protection of the aliens. They aren't susceptible to our diseases directly, but it has been shown that microbes can reproduce and form colonies within their respiratory systems, which tends to exacerbate the debilities they seem to suffer anyway in our environment. As you can see, the being is in real distress. That's the aide stepping in on the right. The medical staff should be there by now. There they are. I have to say the medical personnel at S4 are less than first rate. They tend to be selected for their willingness to keep secrets rather than their medical competence. By the way, he's not shining that light into the eyes. It looks that way, but in fact he's checking for hemorrhaging around the eye sockets and in the nasal cavity. I'm sorry. It's very hard for me to watch this.
Show me a more authentic alien than the one in that interview. By all means, if these makeup people are capable of creating a more realistic alien, then show me, compare it, place it before the public.
I would say, and I know that that's one of the things you ask of me, is that you've got yourself some legitimate footage of one of the little guys being interrogated and filmed. And there's a reality to it, and there's a sensitivity to it that literally breaks my heart.
By all means, if anyone thinks they are smart enough to debunk the video, then show me. Set up a YouTube channel and produce a documentary to show how it was faked, and share it with the world. Good luck. A message to the US government. The documentary you have just seen proves you are keeping secrets from your people, along with brainwashing them with lies and deceit, and have been doing so for the best part of 70 years. I believe the time has come to tell the people of the world what you know, because in all honesty, people are starting to wake up to the fact that we're not alone in the universe. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the people who have supported me throughout this project. I'm sure I will be back one day with more clues, so watch this space.
What is your occupation at Area 51?
I won't answer that. I have had reason to be present at Area 51, but I'm not going to clarify whether or not I was there as an employee.
Are you saying you were there as a visitor?
I'm not going to specify why or in what capacity I was there, only that I was there.
Can you tell us how many times you were there?
When I agreed to this, my fundamental ground rule was that I would not be asked to divulge personal data that might help pinpoint my identity. If you continue to ask questions that are out of bounds, I won't hesitate to terminate this interview.
Are you saying that the number of times you were present at Area 51 is enough to pinpoint your identity?
Any specifics will narrow the field of suspects. Of course, I could lie. Let's say I've been there 47 times, or anyway more than once.
Let's turn to the tape itself. The copy you've supplied is not the original tape.
No,
Was the original at Area 51 when you copied it?
that's out of bounds.
Is it fair to assume that the copying of tapes at Area 51 is heavily restricted?
You can assume anything you like. I would say that's a fair assumption. That's obvious. I will say that this tape was copied under special circumstances. Otherwise, copying it would have been impossible.
Can you be more specific?
More specific? Okay, I'm sure they've figured this much out already. Recently, there was a wholesale transfer of video documentation from analog tape to digital disk storage. In a couple of instances, this allowed data to leak from a highest security system to a less high security system. Even so, this particular tape was the only... I think that's about all I'll say about that.
Was there something about this particular clip that made it more accessible to be copied?
Not necessarily, no.
Was there something about the content that caused them to file it differently or give it special handling?
This interview is terminated.
The interview resumed only after a discussion of the ground rules.
Have you personally seen the alien being that appears in the tape?
Yes, I have, but I stress I was not necessarily present at the interview session that appears on the tape. I'm not going to be specific. I may have encountered the being at another time.
What can you tell us about the alien interview we're about to see?
This one is rather recent, very late in the series. The interview process has been ongoing since the being arrived, which was in 1989. Approximately twice a month, they sit it down for a session that generally lasts from 3 to 5 hours. If they try to go longer than that, or if they schedule the sessions more frequently, the being becomes unresponsive. There's a fair amount of infighting among the scientists from different disciplines to get their questions asked.
What has the alien revealed?
Various minor technical details of the saucers. The physicists and engineers are frankly frustrated. They feel the being is withholding information. Possibly concepts are getting lost because all the information has to come through a telepath. But also it may be that the bulk of their scientific knowledge is just too advanced to be translated into our primitive conceptual framework. It's analogous to if a human scientist were to try to translate quantum mechanics into the grunts and screeches of a chimpanzee.
That's not a very flattering comparison.
Frankly, there's a high attrition rate for scientists in the program. You'd think they'd be energized by the challenge. But a lot of them take the ego deflation very hard when they find out not only how much they don't know, but how much they aren't even capable of understanding. Let me just state here publicly, to head off any clever ideas anyone might be having, I have never been, am not now, and never will be suicidal.
But how would the public know if something happened to you since we don't know who you are?
I'm taking care of that, trust me. If something happens to me, if I die, people will know who I am.
Do you think it's a reassuring sign that these aliens can communicate with us on a spiritual plane?
It would be nice to think so, but I'm not sure if it's really such an achievement considering the mismatch between our intellects. I mean, you're not going to have much luck making your dog understand calculus, but if you pet him on the head and say, "Good dog," aren't you communicating spiritually? And doesn't the animal control officer say, "Good dog," when he comes to put some poor stray to sleep? Doesn't the vet try to reassure the animal just before he spays it?
What about the content of the tape segment you brought?
As I said, this is late in the series. In fact, it's quite close to the end.
Because of his unwillingness to reveal his own identity, Victor's story stands or falls on the credibility of the tape he supplied. Here, exclusively for the first time anywhere, is the uncut, uninterrupted alien interview tape, shown in its entirety in real time.
You removed the soundtrack from the tape before you turned it over to this program.
That's correct. I can't allow the voices of the project personnel to be heard by the general public. There's a very good chance their family or friends on the outside might recognize them.
Is it your purpose in releasing this tape to expose Area 51 to the world?
My purpose is to expose the existence of the aliens, not compromise these individuals. I made the decision to come forward. I'm taking precautions to protect my own identity, and I don't think it's fair for me to put these others in danger of exposure. In any case, the interview on the tape went nowhere. It was interrupted, as you'll see.
Can you describe for us what we're seeing?
All right, we're looking at the interview suite at S4. It's kept dark for the comfort of the aliens. The figure who is just barely visible in the left foreground is the telepath, and behind the camera is a raked seating area for observers. Although in this case, I believe the only other person present was a military aide. The alien is seated behind a glass partition in a biocontainment area, which is maintained at Biosafety Level 2, the lowest designation. That's primarily for the protection of the aliens, not us. The theory is that if they were going to infect us with an alien bug, it would have happened 50 years ago. In fact, all the indications are the aliens eliminated microbial and viral life from their own ecosystem long ago. They aren't susceptible to our diseases directly, but it has been shown that microbes can reproduce and form colonies within their respiratory systems, which tends to exacerbate the debilities they seem to suffer anyway in our environment. In fact, you can see here the alien is beginning to flag. The interview was not going well. The telepath was trying to clarify some points from a previous interview, but he wasn't receiving coherent responses. As you can see, the being is in real distress. At this point, the telepath is sending out a message to the medical staff. He's trying to communicate with the alien, but he's getting no response. There's very little he can do. There's no direct connection between his space and the biocontainment area. That's the aide stepping in on the right. The medical staff should be there by now. They're slow in responding. There they are. I have to say the medical personnel at S4 are less than first rate. They tend to be selected for their willingness to keep secrets rather than their medical competence. By the way, he's not shining that light into the eyes. It looks that way, but in fact he's checking for hemorrhaging around the eye sockets and in the nasal cavity. I'm sorry. It's very hard for me to watch this.